Welcome back to another video. It has been a hot minute and I know y'all don't like these videos, and it has been pointed out to me by many of my haters in the comments because I allow them, that most of my followers don't watch these videos because they're only interested in videos that are against Islam. And you know what? That's fine, because I left Islam and sometimes I talk about Islam and sometimes that's for people. It doesn't matter to me. I don't make videos so that you'll watch them. I make them because I enjoy making them. And that's how we're gonna live. It's 2020, so you better be seeing that clearly. Anyways, we are going to continue with our walk down memory lane because that is what I am doing until at least up to my birthday. There will be an intermission on the 1st of February because I will be doing a No Hijab Day video. Hashtag No Hijab Day, hashtag free from hijab, by the way. Feel free to put that on blast, spread that around. Make sure to use that hashtag to the lead up to No Hijab Day, which is the 1st of February, which will be next Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. But your girl has some attitude that came home with her today because okay, so at work, even though I work at a school, we're meant to dress quite smart. We're meant to wear a jacket. We're meant to wear, smart clothes. So like shirts and skirts and like trousers and like nice shoes and stuff. But I had, on the offhand, thought that I was allowed to wear smart shorts, and it turns out I wasn't. So all day people were telling me off and people were staring and people were giving me disapproving nods, and I just disapproving shakes of the head, and I am just not about it. To me, clothes are very, like, even in the winter, I don't really wear the most clothes. I don't really own jumpers. I own like 2 jumpers, maybe, and maybe 2 hoodies, which are separate things. I don't really dress for the cold because I don't feel very cold. Like, the only parts of my body that genuinely feel cold are like my arms, because they're not very like bulky or built up. But like my legs and my torso and my face typically don't feel very cold. Like, even my ears don't get cold, which is like an extremity. Like, it should get cold, but it doesn't. So I don't dress for the cold, so I'm fine with wearing shorts. And like, I'm not stupid. I wore tights with them, but I was still told off. So now I just have an attitude coming home because I just got all this attention that I wasn't seeking. And I'm not okay with it. Like, I genuinely thought it was okay because the length of my shorts is pretty much like mid-thigh, almost to my knees. So I thought, like, I wear skirts like that, so I should be allowed to wear shorts. But apparently I'm not allowed to do that. So, I mean, it's noted, but now I know where the line is. Like, I'm gonna be 25. Like, I'm always searching for where the line is with different people, with different places where I work. Maybe that's a bad idea, but it's always worked for me. I always search for where the line is, and now I know where the line is. It stops at skirts, or like shorts that look like a skirt. A lot of people were confused by that, but that's what that is. Anyways, that is a warning, but we are continuing with memory lane, and we are continuing looking at my primordial diary, like my oldest diary, which is over 10 years old. And we have things that are from over 10 years. So we're talking about the beginning of the decade, so from 2010 or earlier to, I don't even know, like, I must have stopped filling this in when I want to say 2015, 2016, maybe even some 2017 stuff, because I believe, have some stuff from my first boyfriend, but we'll get into that. What we're looking at today is what I filled out in terms of not just my talents, but the talents of all my classmates in 2007. So we're going deep, like way back. And I'm not going to read out what I wrote for other people, but I will read out what other people wrote for me, or I may have written this for myself. I can't exactly remember, but I described myself, or others described me, as artistic, a hard worker, a good listener, caring, honest, and confident. And I wrote down that I wanted to be, get this, I wrote like so many things. I wanted to be a fashion designer, a mechanic, an engineer, an archaeologist, a paleontologist, and a journalist, and then as a footnote I said an author. This was this is still me, by the way. Like, this is still everything that I want to do. Maybe not mechanic and engineer, because I've definitely outgrown that. I may have mentioned in either a live stream or a previous episode that I was really into Transformers, like the 80s cartoon animation, like 2D animation Transformers. I was really into them. I still really love that series. So Generation 1, Generation 2, and the animated movie that came from that. Not the hot garbage that we know and love. Transformers today, Michael Bay, just no, not that. The Generation 1, Generation 2, and then the first animated movie. I was really, really into that. I also watched Generation 3 and 4, but I wasn't as obsessed with that. So that kind of put me in the mindset, oh, I want to work on cars. But if you ask me today, like, what do I think of cars? I absolutely, I have no opinion. I want to learn how to drive because I think it will make my life more convenient, but I honestly don't see myself as someone who owns a car, because you just don't need one in London, and you can't give me that much control. I am a lunatic. So yeah, these were all the things that I wanted to do. Like fashion designing, the reason I put that down was because we had textiles in school. We didn't have art or, any other design and technology subjects. We just had textiles. For a hot minute we had cooking, but then we just had textiles, and everybody had to do textiles. And textiles was something that I was really good at. First of all, because my mother was really good at it and she helped me a lot. And so I had a head start. Like I knew how to load up a sewing machine and things like that. But also because I had a gift for drawing. Like I've done some drawing, a little bit too political maybe, but I'm naturally quite talented in art. I've always been drawing since I was a little kid, and so that was something that I aspired to be. My other ones, archaeologist and paleontologist. Now y'all know I'm very into history. That was our last live stream was about that. Oh, also I may have, those of you who don't watch my live streams, I'm blonde again. Sorry if I was just blinding you for the first 7 minutes of the video. It's already been 7 minutes. I talk too much. But for those of you who did tune into the live stream, y'all know that I'm very into history, and that's why I put down archaeologist. And the reason I put paleontologist down, it's like an archaeologist but for dinosaurs, is because I love dinosaurs. It was a huge part of my growing up. I have a Jurassic Park poster over there. I've always loved dinosaurs. I've always been fascinated by dinosaurs, but I am not scientific enough to be a paleontologist. It's a dream that I will just not be able to chase because I'm struggling with psychology, and psychology is barely a science. It's a social science. So that's what I'm struggling with. So, I mean, go figure. The last one was journalist/author, which, I still kind of aspire to be. I think I still have the knack for that. I'm working on a couple of creative pieces right now. I'm working on a creative project right now with CEMB, which I can't really talk about, and I may have said a few times. But yeah, that is still an aspiration of mine, is to become an author. My best friend at the time, I'm not going to say her name because I don't think that would be constructive, but I wrote her qualities as funnier, constructive criticism, judges others, ambitious, helpful, perseverance, self-esteem, shares, and is generous. I wasn't the most articulate child, as you can see, but she wanted to be an archaeologist or a journalist, so you can probably see why we were best friends at the time. And they're I did all my classmates, and it's just wonderful to read this back because I know who I was talking about, and some of these people I knew. So this was in 2007, so this must have been when I was in year 7. So I got to know them as we went through school, and some of them I've, met recently, or, not as recently, but I knew them as I grew up. And it's just wonderful to see how much has stayed in common and how much has changed. So many of my classmates wanted to be doctors or midwives, and that just has not panned out because being a doctor or a midwife is no small ordeal. So the next thing I want to show you is a little history tool. I have the last live stream was more or less all about my rant about how history is so boring in some schools, and this was a prop that I created about World War One and World War Two, and it's a summary of some of the events that went on. So I'm just going to read some of this, and there's some on the back as well. Although it's not as important, it's just about how to answer questions. But it's just about the top things. So like the alliances, the Triple Entente, the Triple Alliance, the rivalries, the Balkans, the Ottoman decline, the Austria-Hungarian fears, the Russian interest, the Bosnian crisis, the Balkan Wars, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the ultimatum with Serbia, with the Austrian-Hungarian thing, the peace, the armistice in 1918, the League of Nations, and how it was doomed for failure, the aims of the big three, so Lloyd George, Clemenceau, and Woodrow Wilson, the Treaty of Versailles, and the Second World War, about the Italian invasion of Abyssinia, the Wall Street crash, the Manchurian crisis, the growing problem of Hitler, the Anschluss, I don't know how to say that, but it was about Czechoslovakia and the Soviet Nazi pact, the appeasement policies. Like, I made a summary, so anyone who is studying that, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to send you a picture of that, because I remember this being such a useful tool, and it's like colorful and graphic, and my teacher wasn't the most interesting character, but she was hella scary, so I wanted to get everything right because I just didn't want to get in trouble with her. Some other pieces, there's one of these that I don't even know if I want to show. I'm not going to show that one because that's ultra private, but this was something that one of my cousins made me and I kept because it was really super sweet. It was either one of my cousins or my sister, I can't exactly remember, but they made it for me and I kept it. What is this? Oh, I don't even know whose handwriting this is. This is my handwriting. My handwriting has changed so much. This is a creative writing piece. Wait. Stuck together. Wait. Should I read this out? I'm just gonna read okay, it's 12 minutes in. I'm just gonna read the first paragraph. And this was in 2016. Theodore was a strange man. He liked strange things and was known to be odd. He lived in a tall house that was crumbling away. It had a jungle of a garden before it, the leaves of ivy and other poisonous plants crawling its way to the top. The paint on the outer walls were peeling away, and the rotting wooden posts that had once been benches had been reduced to such a horrible, decrepit state by rowdy school children who couldn't seem to find anything better to do. Not many people knew Theodore. He was rarely seen outside his home. Indeed, he only removed himself from his crumbling cocoon to take the rubbish outside. And there was certainly fear around him. Only the bravest school children dared to kick the gates and the rotted bench posts that belonged to the ambling man. They put in quotations and capitalized. One day Theodore crept out the dying folds of his home, past a weird... Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of this. This is just awful. Look at the handwriting. This must have been Alicia and I had, when we were first friends, we had set up, so really early in our friendship, we had set up a creative writing workshop together with one of the community centers that we both volunteered for, and it was just it was just the best because it's just memories. I feel like that's where that's from. I can't remember exactly. We had made lesson plans, we had made and it was broken up into poetry and into prose, so there were 10 sessions, and we had one really frequent person who came almost every week, and he was we later became really good friends, But it was a really good time, and I remember like looking forward to that. It was also a time where everything was very uncertain because I was a volunteer, you know. I was a volunteer. I didn't have a paying job at the time, and it was really uncertain. It was just something to look forward to aside from job searching and going to the job center and, you know, all the absolute garbage with my family. It was just something to look forward to, and it was a time that I really appreciate, and I really do feel like it strengthened the bond between Alicia and myself, because honestly we don't have a whole lot in common. We're very different people, but we're also the very best of friends, and I know that if I'm going through something, or if I need advice with something, I can always have Alicia to, you know, either give me a contrasting view, or, you know, to even just comfort me in my downtime. We're just very different people. Like, I'm very good at comforting people, but I'm not the easiest to get a hold of, because I like disappearing from time to time, and and I'm also not the most organized. Like, you can't predict me. Like, I'm very irregular and I'm very spontaneous, and I have a lot of energy for no reason. But unlike me, Alicia's extremely reliable. You know, she knows what to say, and she knows how to be, and I can literally tell her anything and everything. I wouldn't say that I'm that kind of person. You can't tell me literally anything and everything. I feel like there's a part of me that's very, I don't want to say malicious, but very cunning, and I come to grips with it at time to time, from time to time. I don't even know what I'm saying, but like I'm not the most appreciative of that part of me, because I know that there's just like this hint of menacing that I just don't want to touch. I don't want to awaken. But then there's like, I also appreciate it because it's gotten me out of like really bad situations. Like, I'm able to plan things really well to work in my favor. Again, like, I don't know if I appreciate that side of me, but there are times where I do, and I genuinely like think if I didn't have that, I'd be dead. So it's just this, I don't even know where I'm going with this conversation. The point is that Alicia's an amazing friend, and that is why she is on my wall. I need to get a blown up picture of her like I have of Simon, because she just needs to be in every single video of mine. But she's in quite a few pictures. She's one of my closest friends, and I feel as though, not even friends, she's literally like family right now. She's my sister, and I tell her everything. If I don't see her and a week goes by, it literally feels like I haven't seen her in years. Like, that's how close we are. I also wanted to do a video about surrogate families. You know, I'm gonna note that down. I'm gonna do a video about surrogate families, and we're gonna talk about that in a different video, but after memory lane, month, week, eon, I don't care. Like, I'm doing this for a while because I want to do this. I'm turning 25. I only turned 25 once. I want to reminisce about the last decade. Okay, fucking sue me. This is my life now, and y'all gonna deal with it. So I want to show you this page because it is the page of, and I'm also not sure if I'm allowed to show you some of this stuff, but I'm gonna cover some of it because it's got like my name and details on it, but the rest of it y'all can see. So these are like ID cards that I really can't show you, but these are some of the memorabilias from my first jobs. So my first jobs were so I had two first jobs. My first job was stewarding. I used to steward at Wembley Stadium, which is what this voucher on the right here is. And I also used to volunteer at this place here. So, and these are the keys that I had, and that building no longer exists, so I felt entitled to keeping the keys. That building was taken away. These were the keys, because I was, I don't want to say I was a manager, but I was like a managing assistant. I was there almost every day, and I used to volunteer with them. So I had a set of keys for that place, and I kept them because I love that place. Some of my best memories are from that place. And yeah, those were my two first jobs. I was a steward and I was a volunteer. And my other job, which I cannot show you the ID pass for the life of me, is I worked in schools, and that was what I did. This is a Christmas card from someone special. Oh, it's from one of the colleges I worked at. It's from one of my students. I'm not going to show you that. But yeah, we've actually gotten through the first part of my diary, which now it's just like empty pages. But the next thing that I recorded in this, so this, okay, ignore this for a second because I'll get to that in a bit, maybe in the next video. But these are swatches from an item of clothing that I took from home. So 2015, when I left my dad's house, this was an item of clothing that I had in my house that I took with me. And when it came to throwing it out, because it was in absolute ruins by like, I want to say 2018, because I'd had it for a long time as well. Like, I didn't get it in 2015. I'd gotten it maybe in like, I don't even know. It was a while back. It was a long time ago. I'd had it for a really long time, and it was the one item of clothing that I had taken with me because it was both comfortable and practical. And when it came to throwing it away, because it was in absolute ruins, I wanted to keep parts of it because it was something meaningful to, like, I felt bad about throwing it away. There were certain things from my past where I didn't think twice about, like my jilbab, my niqab. Like, there were things that I carried around with me that I was like, you know what, I don't need this anymore, like, I'm just gonna throw it away. And I'm honestly not the worst at throwing clothes away. I'm actually trying to not do it as much anymore because, again, I'm trying to make my home homely for the new year. And like, I'm just trying to get myself out of the state of mind where I'm just fighting, like, I'm constantly afraid that I'm gonna get kicked out of my home, like I'm gonna have to move again. Like, I'm trying to get out of survival mode, and I'm just trying to get into this state of comfortability and not in constant anxiety and fear about losing my home, because your girl has moved around a lot, and it has caused some serious problems for me. And it's just a terrifying thought. So I've always, like, kept things to a minimum. Like, even this, like, these are things that I, like, if I had to leave, I would just leave behind and I would just leave on the walls. But in terms of, like, my clothing and my item, like my care items, I've always kept to a minimum. My number of shoes I've always kept to a minimum, because there've just been so many incidences of me needing to get up and leave. So this was one of the items that I couldn't just let go of. Like, it was a purely sentimental item that I felt really bad about getting rid of, because it felt, well, while it wasn't a friend, it clearly wasn't a friend, there weren't many things that I could carry around with me. Like, things like this, like pieces of memorabilia that I keep from like a long time ago, I just didn't have. I didn't take them with me. There were certain things that I thought about taking while I was in my father's house, that I just didn't end up taking, and they just didn't carry over, because in my brain I was like, you're being stupid, you don't need this, it's adding weight, you don't need it, so leave it behind. And one of those things was this diary, believe it or not, and I'm so glad that I took it. But this was one of the only things that I took from my father's house, and this item of clothing. And it had been around with me for so long. It had been with me through all my struggles, all my bad times, all my good times. I know it sounds ridiculous and silly and stupid and, you know, ignorant, but that's how I genuinely felt. And I'm actually really, really glad. Like, I kept a label. This is, like, not a designer label at all. It doesn't cost anything. Like, it must cost like a penny to get that label on there, but it was genuinely like something that I wanted to keep for as long as I could, because it had been through all of my struggles with me. The next part of this I may save, because it gets slightly more interesting. It's not just about me and me almost crying in videos. I might keep for well, some of this gets a lot darker, I'm realizing, but you know what, we're gonna roll with it. I'm gonna keep this for the next video. As I may have mentioned in the last few videos that I posted, I will be recording all my videos in one go, so I will be wearing the same thing. Don't judge me. I do have more clothes, and I do wear my hair in different ways, like, but I will see you in the next video. If you liked this video, please consider leaving a like, please consider subscribing, hitting that bell notification, leaving a comment if you feel like it. All of my social media links are in the description below. I would also like to advise that one of my good friends, I don't want to say her full name because I don't know if she's made that public, but she's Little Devil on Twitter. Some of you may know her if you've carried from Twitter to my channel. She's going through a lot of tough times at the moment. She is an ex-Muslim. She's recently had to report her father, much like myself, and leave her home, and she's fallen on some really tough times. She's been in and out of hospital. She's been in and out of psychiatric help, 2 separate events. She's been to actual hospital as well because of an accident that she had. And she's currently going through some homelessness and some financial problems, and she just needs your support. So I will leave the link to her GoFundMe below. Donate whatever you can. Obviously there is no obligation to do so, but if you would like to support a young woman in need, please do consider doing so. It is something that I feel really strongly about, and since I know her personally, I do feel inclined to push this. So she's just trying to raise some money for 2 months worth of rent until she can get accepted into a program for low-income housing. And she can also move into a program where she can, gain all the skills to find a job and, be financially independent. That is what she is striving for. And I would like to remind you, for those of you who don't fully understand, it's really difficult to leave a sheltered environment where you don't gain any of your skills. Like myself, like I was never expected to work, so I was not given any of the tools to live independently, like how to save money or credit scores, taxation, things like that. I was never taught that by my parents or by the schooling system that I went to, because I also went to an Islamic school. And when I left my father's house, I had no work experience. I'd been out of work for a few years since leaving education, because they count that as unemployment and you need to explain that. And I had no tools, I had no skills, I didn't have a degree. I'm currently doing my degree. It's really, really difficult for people like us to go out into the world with no support, and this is what she's currently going through. So it is something that is deeply related to the same kind of struggle that I went to. So I'm sure that I would really appreciate your donations, and I'm sure she would really appreciate your donations. So please do consider giving. But other than that, if you absolutely detested this video and don't want anything to do with it, please do leave comments below. I welcome all comments on my channel. Please smash that dislike button, unsubscribe, roast me on Twitter. All the links are in the description below. I do want to prioritize Little Devil's GoFundMe fundraiser, but if you have coins to spare, I also have a Patreon, I have a PayPal, I have merch in the description below if you would like to support me. Again, no obligation to, but if you would like to, please do consider doing so. Thank you, and I will see you on the flip side. It will be Friday's video, but I'll be recording it today. Again, I have more clothes, I promise you. Please don't judge me. So yeah, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye. See you later.